The only indigenous peoples, I say this all the time, who the Democrats, who the left, the Biden administration do not recognize are the Jews in Judea and Samaria. Now I want to turn to something a little more positive, also very, very interesting, but completely different. The trailer for Route 60, the biblical highway with Pompeo and Friedman, that would be the former Secretary of State, and David Friedman, the former ambassador to Israel from the United States, take a road trip on Israel's biblical highway. This is real fascinating. They're putting out an entire movie. We have special access to, what is this, a trailer of sorts, which is about 6 minutes long. I want you to take a look at this, because if I don't show this to you, I don't think you're going to see it unless you actually go see the movie, which I hope you will. Let's take a look. Go.
Deep within every lover of Israel is a desire to follow the path of Scripture, where the heroes of our faith walk.
We know him as Jesus of Nazareth, right? This is where he began much of his work, much of his life.
Weaving its way through the heart of the Holy Land, from Nazareth to Jerusalem to Beersheba. Known as Route 60, this modern-day Israeli thoroughfare is a biblical highway that once felt the footsteps of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, King David, and Jesus.
This is where Isaac and Ishmael ultimately reconcile.
Join David Friedman and Mike Pompeo as they guide you on this inspiring path as ancient as the land and as modern as the hope of Israel's future.
This is a place where you really can think about the continuum of life.
Come along for a close-up look at Israel, the land of the Bible, as you've never seen it. Join us for a pilgrimage of the sacred, a journey of hope along Route 60, the biblical highway. In theaters September 18th and 19th.
Highway 60 in Israel and the West Bank is only 235 kilometers or 146 miles long, but its story travels back thousands of years. This road, which goes from Nazareth in the north all the way to Beersheba in the south, is also known as the Way of the Patriarchs, as it contains many sites with biblical connections.
We have a road which is an ancient road, and it is called today Route 60, but in ancient times it was called either the Path of the Patriarchs. The Romans used this road. It's a very old road, and it really, the southern tip of it is Beersheba. So that's where we are today to start the biblical highway route. It starts back here. And it goes north, and it goes through Hebron, and from Hebron to Bethlehem, from Bethlehem to Jerusalem, from Jerusalem to Bethel, from Bethel to Shiloh, from Shiloh to Shechem, and from Shechem, Shechem, all the way to the Jezreel Valley and to Nofa Galil, also known as Nazareth. So you have this one strip of road, and it starts here in the south, and we're going to go up the mountain, until at the very tip we're going to go down from the mountain.
The biblical highway is now a subject of a new documentary film produced by the TBN network, which follows former U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo as he travels Highway 60 with former U.S. Ambassador to Israel David Friedman.
They flew around the country from north to south on the biblical highway and are now about to put out a movie just about this topic, the Israel Biblical Highway, with all the stops, with all the Jewish biblical sites, but also the Christian biblical sites, all along this highway.
Ishai Fleischer, known primarily as a spokesperson of the Jewish community in Hebron, is very much engaged in this goal of making this highway a tourist attraction and a heritage road, similar to the famous Highway 66 in the US. I-24 News followed him as he toured some key points of the road. Our first stop was Tel Beersheba, associated with ancient biblical Beersheba.
So what we're seeing right now is the fusion of the ancient, which is right beneath us, Tel Beersheba, this ancient city of Beersheba. But around us is the big city of Beersheba, the modern Israeli city. And for many people around the world, people think it's a miracle that there's an ancient 4,000-year-old city, and next to it, a brand new city that has been reborn since 1917. And so not only is there an ancient city, but there's also an ancient road that's a new road, and that's Route 60. And you can kind of see it behind me a little bit in the distance. That road starts here in Beersheba, and it's going to go north. And we're going to follow that north, and I'm hoping very much that pilgrims from all over the world, like the ones that we see here today in Tel Beersheba, will be coming to this place, and they'll say to themselves, we're going on the biblical highway.
Our next stop is the Tomb of the Patriarchs in Hebron. This city has been a source of clashes between Muslims and Jews for generations, as religion, politics, and territory all collided.
Route 60, the Israel Biblical Highway, is a way to get around the political problems. We're talking about education. We're talking about heritage of much of the world, most of the world. So we're talking about something that says, listen, let's put the politics aside a little bit. Let's get back to Abraham, like the Abraham Accords, that the very name itself speaks of this place. Abraham, the father of many nations. The Arabs respect Abraham. The Jews respect Abraham. I always say to Arab friends, let's make this place beautiful. It's our joint shared father. Let's make something beautiful. So it's the same thing. The biblical highway is meant to bypass. It's in that sense, it's a bypass road. It's a road that's supposed to bypass the politics and the tensions. It's not here to make wars. It's here to educate, to love. Also, by the way, to make a lot of money and welfare for local peoples. People are all going to benefit from it because there's going to be more restaurants, more shops, more businesses, more opportunities. So it is a touristic, it's a touristic value. It's an asset for the state of Israel, for the Jewish people, and the people living alongside this road are all going to benefit.
We end our tour in Emek Bracha, or the Valley of Blessing in the West Bank, which provides a good viewpoint of the road, as well as more stories associated with the Torah.
Well, we're standing in a beautiful place here, really not so far away from Jerusalem, just a little bit south, close to Gush Etzion. We're in the heart of the area called Judea, and below us is the Valley of Blessings, Emek HaBracha, very famous valley in the book of Chronicles 2. Yehoshaphat, one of the scions of King David, beats back the Ammonites and the Moabites, and he comes here and he puts everybody below him, all the Jewish people of Judah, and they bless them. And that's what it says. It says here, I'm holding up a 100-year-old Bible. It says that it came on the fourth day. They came to the Valley of Bracha, and that's where they bless God. Therefore, they called the name of the place Emek HaBracha Ad Hayom. To this very day, it's called the Valley of Blessings. So that's one. And two, this is also the place where Jacob, way earlier, when he was coming back from his sojourn in Haran and Aram in southern Turkey, was coming back to see his father in Hebron. So he stopped here in this place. This hilltop was called Migdal Eder. Migdal Eder, the tower that looks onto the flock and watches over the flock. So that's what this place is about, biblically speaking.
With Pompeo and Friedman at his side, Fleischer hopes to make Highway 60 a must-see road in the Holy Land, despite the bumps along the way.
It's going to be a fantastic movie. It's in limited theaters September 18 and September 19. I've been to a few of these places, Hebron, most prominent of them. And there's basically about 85 Jewish families left in that city, if I have that right. It is populated by a large military Israeli force because the Arabs, more specifically the Palestinians, decades ago unleashed a brutal terrorist attack against the Jews in that town, killing many of them. And so the Israeli government has a fairly significant IDF presence there. So when you go there, you'll see a lot of IDF, and you'll see the old part where you saw there with the gentleman who was speaking, who was our guide, who came to the United States, was in Washington at the Bible Museum while I was sitting there minding my own business, and he came up to me and the family and he said, "You've got to go to Hebron. You've got to go to Hebron." And he's a spokesman for Hebron. There's not many spokesmen for Hebron. There's not many Jews left in Hebron. And by the way, you think about this. Hebron was a major Jewish, I won't say city, but area. And now you have a minimal number of Jews. You look at this throughout the Middle East. You look at Bethlehem. Bethlehem used to be majority Christian. Now it's majority Palestinian. Bethlehem, the birth of Jesus Christ. The birth of Christianity, really, that's the way it's viewed, certainly. And now Christians are a minority, and Christians are constantly attacked. And it takes the IDF and the local Israeli police to protect them there. I'm just making this point. And there's other places in Israel just like this. So when you have people who are historical illiterates and morons like Joe Biden, or when you have and I'll say it, self-hating Jews like Thomas Friedman and groups like J Street, it makes it difficult to get the facts out. Even this I-24 station, major Israeli TV station, they talk about how from quote-unquote here, you can see further into the West Bank. It's not the West Bank. Not the West, it's Judea and Samaria. I mean, the only indigenous peoples, I say this all the time, who the Democrats, who the left, the Biden administration do not recognize are the Jews in Judea and Samaria. They'll recognize indigenous peoples, like 7 of them, who might be living outside of 1 million acres of property that can be drilled on and so forth. Where'd they do this? The Grand Canyon. There's like 7 people there, seven Native Americans, or 27 or something like that. And they said, in honor of them, 1 million acres taken out of, it's like, excuse me? So they lie and they cheat and all the rest of it. This administration is so hostile to the Israeli state, and they get these quislings who sort of give them backing for their position, like the Thomas Friedmans of the world, and I want to get to him in a minute. The reason why Trump was so successful in the Middle East, number one, he was strong, he was direct, and he was clear on what he wanted to do. He cut off the Palestinians in every respect, cut every damn nickel that we gave them. He could see they were committing acts of terrorism and using our money to reward the terrorists. He could see he wasn't getting anywhere with them. So on great advice, he decided, you know what, we're going around them and we're going to deal with the Arab states. And we're going to tell the Arab states, get over your fetish with the Palestinians because they're not interested in anything. And so you have the Abraham Accords as a result. And you have these so-called moderate Gulf Arab states making alliances with Israel because they have a common enemy, Iran. And they realize Israel has the most powerful military in the Middle East. This is all being unraveled by Joe Biden. That's why you don't have any extension of the Abraham Accords to any other country. The Israelis are still trying to work hard to get the Saudi Arabians not on board, but in a position where there can be some loose, maybe unstated alliance beyond intelligence and military. And so now you have individuals in our government, so-called, in the regime, the Biden regime, and individuals at the New York Times who are trying to destroy that possibility. They want a two-state solution. The two-state solution for Israel, in my view, is the final solution.
For more, sign up for Levin TV.